And we should be live. Let me just make sure we're live. Yeah, we should now be live. So Jennifer, whenever you're ready, we can call the 2022 budget hearing to order.
All right, the November 22 budget hearing for the Board of Commissioners for the South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District is called to order at 6:04 p.m.
Okay, so this budget hearing in general is for anyone from the public who wants to make a make a comment on the proposed budget for next year. It is also a last chance for any of the commissioners to kind of take a look at anything before we approve the budget at our regular meeting following this. Let me just, Matt, if you want to, I'll run through the actual narrative that we send, but Matt, if you want to run through the budget after that, that might be a good kind of way to run through this really quick.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. So as you guys got in email, I think it was last Friday from Doug, since our the last budget planning meeting or workshop, we've gotten some additional data to help us make the 2022 numbers more accurate in a couple of areas. One is the implementation of the small water system management plan that we prepared earlier in the year and submitted to the state. There are some provisions in there for water quality testing and for backflow prevention system that we need to implement and process and system and our anti-cross connection, and then some other updates to things like our building lease. So this budget, the 2022 numbers in this version of the budget reflect those updates. So anyway, you saw the detail in the email from the staff, but the current budget now is different from what we saw because of those updates. The material, kind of overall budget numbers don't change significantly, but they are now more correct to reflect what we'll actually spend in 2022.
Yeah, the two big ticket, and they weren't even that big ticket of items. I think we added $1,000 for the hiring of a certified water systems management person group or company to do our water system for us, to do the testing, the monitoring, recording everything, getting it, because we have to have a certified water system operator with the small water system management plan. I think we added $1,000 for that. The other one was the building lease for the year came in from Island County, and they told us that they were going to be about, over the course of the year, about $800 more next year than this year. So we've folded those numbers in. Those were the only changes. We did find that we had factored in some money for basketball, and we are going to be able to have a basketball program this year going into winter, so that's good news there. The document that I'm showing on the screen now is basically what we send to the county. It's historically what we've sent to the county, and the county has accepted this every year. It kind of gives you a breakdown of everything and gives the county a breakdown of everything. And I wanted to make sure that we had this available for you, because this is what the board will be approving this year at this meeting. It talks about what our plan is, and then at the end here I have voter approval with a rate of 20 cents per thousand. If the board elects to do a different rate for next year for the 2022, I can update that number before everybody comes in to sign, because this will have to be signed in person. And then it just kind of gives a breakdown of the budget on of the overall budget, and then the bond budget. We are looking to pay off a couple of the bonds, pay off the money we had in the bond, anything we've got remaining on the Max Welton Trails next year. So that is reflected in this and shown in this as an intent next year. Does anyone, so that's that portion of it, and that's what the board will be approving. The actual overarching document that we use internally has only changed a very minor changes from what you saw at the last board meeting, and those I folded in. It's just taking a little while to load up here. To that, so we are looking at basically one more year. We talked about this at the last meeting at the budget hearing, as well as in the regular meeting about what to do going forward. We are looking at kind of similar to what we've done before, but we've modified how we look at it, and we've brought the vehicle loans that we're paying off through maintenance and operation, as well as the any of the capital kind of in budget capital that we do, like garbage cans, picnic tables, that kind of thing, that we kind of separated out of our operating budget. We've folded those in because they are actually part of our maintenance and operations process. So this is taking a long time to load. Okay, so those are the changes that we've had in the budget, and now my screen is not doing anything. Hold on one second here. That's not it.
And Doug, just while we're waiting, what is the date we have to have that signed and turned into the county?
We have to have it into the county by the end of this month, November 30th.
Yeah, okay, so it's not like we have to get it all in to sign it tomorrow.
No, sooner the better, but no, not by, it doesn't have to be by tomorrow. I'd like to get it to the county. Thanksgiving in general kind of makes things a little, hectic there, so I'd like to get it in sooner rather than later. I'm really sorry, I don't know.
Wait.
Go ahead.
This is Carrie. We discussed what we would prefer is to have everything signed off by you guys by Friday, so that Monday I could take it up to the county.
Yeah.
And then that gives them a chance to look at it and let us know if there's anything that needs to be fixed or anything like that, so that we don't miss the boat on anything.
Perfect.
So you can see we're coming up, and in looking at the levy and stuff this year, it actually came back from when I looked at the levy stuff. Our levy right now, if it was cents per thousand on what we'd be receiving next year, was in the 17 cents per thousand range. When we started this process 4 years ago with our current levy, we were at 20 cents per thousand, but we only go up 1% per year. So we have fallen a little bit behind we're behind 20 cents per thousand at our projected 980 in the levy. This obviously is our overarching 5-year document, and kind of shows what our plan is over the next 5 years, and this is the current numbers here are based on the 20-cent levy and the 2022. I believe the 2022 is the levy, the actual for this year. So this is the conservative estimate is what we would get at 20 cents. So looking at this, not much has changed. We're still right about where we were in prior years. Project equipment expense and loan payments, as well as the campground expense and revenue. Since we hadn't put that in yet, we separated those out and brought those down below. Those are now within our operating budget, so that has changed kind of how we look, and you can see, that the total profit and loss, it's gone up a little bit in a loss, but with the new levy reset, we should be able to make that up fairly quickly, and we have plenty in the reserves to be able to carry that over for 1 year. Staff recommends approval, and I'm happy to take any questions or delve into anything that the board would like to talk about, or if there's any comment. I know we have Jake Grave, who's are going to be one of our commissioners come January online, as well as John Bush, and I'm happy to take any comment from anyone on that or question.
I just have a question about, I guess, not so much on the program side, but on the equipment side. And I know that this is not necessarily to get into the weeds, but I'm not seeing any item or any recognition of the Max Welton trails. I believe the road and trail maintenance item was pretty much the same as this year, but wouldn't we be taking on a whole lot more?
So,
Or is that not really an expense that, you know, that was just one thing that kind of jumped out to me. And then the other thing was, I was looking at the repair parts, and I know that our crew does a great job of trying to keep as much of the repairs in-house, and therefore it requires purchasing parts and things like that. Are we taking into account the supply chain issues? I know.
right. Yes, we do that. I know Tom has pushed off purchasing certain new equipment because the new equipment we can't get the parts for. So we're sticking with the older stuff where we can get the parts. And we do consider that in purchasing stuff. And, you know, a lot, we have always, since I've been here and even before then, when I got here, the philosophy was we have a small staff, so we want to keep our equipment in great working condition and have great quality equipment so that our staff can do the job in a very efficient and effective manner. We continue to do that. The road and trail maintenance item not being increased, for Max Welton Trails right now, what we're planning is we're looking at one access trail this year. We may look at some other trails next year, but we're looking at being basically finished in trail construction at Trustland, and trail maintenance is generally something that we go out there and we'll do on all the trails. But it's not a huge aspect there. We are, you know, we are getting fairly close to built out at Trustland, and we're gonna start to look at Max Welton Trails Park probably, you know, as we go forward and getting permits and all that kind of stuff as needed for that process. But yeah, I think that's kind of like you know, with those kinds of things, it's staff time, we're going to be doing something different at Max Welton Trails Park, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the maintenance aspect of it, I don't see a ton of maintenance, and actually Max Welton Trails will be easier to maintain because it's closer to our maintenance hub, so it shouldn't take as much time for us to run over there and, you know, if there's a tree across the trail, clean it up and get it out of the way.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So to be clear, Doug, you said that the plan for 2022 for Max Welton is just the one access trail.
Yeah, for right now, yes. We have not planned anything else in there. Any other thoughts, concerns, questions?
Just one more, and this actually I don't know if this is the right place to ask it or more when in the regular meeting when we're looking at capital projects, but of course the campground is now not in the capital project, it's in the maintenance and operations. What's our ETA on that?
Yeah, our ETA on the campground, well, before we can do the campground, we have to have the small water system management plan in place. We have to have site plan review done. I'm hoping to get site plan review and the small water management plan in place beginning of this year, and then be bidding out construction. You know, this has been an ongoing process with the county, and they've had such changeover that every time there's a new person in there, I seem to have a new requirement that we have to follow for this. But I know we need the small water system management plan in place to connect to the water system to bring water over to that site. We will need water on that site. Then we can start getting bids and quotes in and do the work and get it actually plugged in and done. You know, this is an ongoing goal, but we have to, before we can take the steps to start the construction, we have to have these things in place. This is all part of site plan review. Once we get through site plan review with that, I've already submitted for initial review the septic design to the county. They required that even though we're not constructing it, they needed design in so that they can review that and go, yes, you have a plan in place. We'll need to get the water system brought over, probably figured out and done. But first we have to get that plan in place so that we show that we've met the steps to expand our water system. So that's where we're at. We're not stopping. We're continuing to work on it. Okay. Any other questions on the budget for the budget hearing? Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so we could at this point close the budget hearing and move to the regular meeting.
Can I just say one thing in closing? I have to say I appreciate the time. I know there's a lot of time and effort that went into this on the part of the entire staff, and special recognition to Carrie for early on in this new role. This is a relatively intense and critical item, and appreciate the time that the whole staff, and in particular Carrie, spent on pulling this together.
Thank you.
Now you get to be audited on it.
Yeah, and Matt, thank you for all the work that you did getting everything pulled together and questioning how things are done and how they can be done.
Oh, you're welcome. Teamwork.
All right, then we will adjourn the 2022 budget hearing at 6:20 p.m.
Okay, good. All right, so then we can call to order our regular meeting.
All right, so then we will call to order the November 2021 meeting of the South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District Board of Commissioners meeting. The first order of business will be public comment.
Okay, one moment, please. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. My computer is not wanting to cooperate. All right, so first thing that we have on the agenda is public comment. In public comment, I have, I'm going to see if I can close that out and restart that. Okay, I'm getting an error message. What am I getting? Why won't this close? Sorry about this, folks. Let me move to here. So we do have public comment tonight. We did receive numerous comments on the trails, both the Trustland trails and the Max Welton Trails Park property. I did share with you, so we had trail comments from Mr. Swenson, which I shared with you as the board. And there's his letter. We also had a letter from Mr. Bush, who I see is online, from Mr. Panzer. All right, it's not letting, that's frozen. So let me, I've shared all those with you as the board, and we can attach them, all of these, to the minutes to be in the official record. So Mr. Panzer shared his letter with us. I have shared that with you. I shared these with you all as they arrived. So there's Mr. Panzer's letter. There's Mr. Swenson's letter, and Mr. Swenson also brought in a picture that he drew. That's not it. That's not his picture. Well, that's weird. Where did his picture go? His picture, oh, there it is.
Yeah, we were seeing it in the preview on the right side, but
Yeah, it's not coming up. I think my computer's just overwhelmed at the moment. So hold on one second. Let me see if I can. Okay. All right, let's move that down. Let's move that down. I'm gonna do something really quick here. So hold on one moment. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and see if I can clean this up a little bit. Give me 1 second here. Okay, we got that. We got that. I'm getting nothing. Oh, now it's completely frozen. I'm sorry, folks. I may have to log out and log back in. I'm getting no connection here. There we go. All right, well, let's see what we can do.
Doug, if need be, perhaps I could share what you need from here, that whole meeting or not, but.
Yeah, if you want to, well, I mean, you don't have all of the documents because I received some of them. Let me just try.
Okay.
Let me just try something here. But we did receive multiple comments on the on all of the trails from there. That might do it, and this might help too. Okay. All right, there. Let's see if we can do this now. Okay, that might have gotten it. So let's try this now. Go back here. There we go. All right, so close that. All right. There we go. All right. There. Now I can control it. So, did have multiple comments on the trails. I did share those with all the board, and I can actually add those all. We had Mr. Ackerman commented on the Max Welton Trails access trail, and we had Mariana Dane comment that I just sent out this evening to the Board of Commissioners. I just received it before the meeting. We had Mr. Panzer, Thompson. Let me pull up Mr. Swenson's drawing if I can do that, and see if this will work this time. There it is. Okay, so this is Mr. Swenson's drawing. This is the concept that we sent out. Mr. Swenson put his drawing of what he believed the trail is. I don't know how he mapped that, but that's what he drew. I then talked to my staff and had them go out and redo it with the GPS, and they actually were able to get actual kind of GPS drop points of actually walking where they had flagged. This drop point here is 37 yards, so 37 yards multiplied by 3. You're over 100 feet away from the property line here at this point. That's measuring that point. and then and that was one of the closest points of the trail. The other one was down here. This is the other close point. That was again 33.3 yards. So basically 100 feet away from the property line. Our staff on this trail, I know we had talked about 50 feet, but we thought we didn't need to go 50 feet from the property line. We felt 100 was fine. So that's kind of what they went and did with the GPS. That's marking that. So that's the trust line trails and the Max Walton. We had one Ackerman commented on the Max Walton trails access. The others were all commenting on trust line trails. Those were circulated, and we do have an agenda item. So, but I wanted them included as public comment for this meeting, so that's why I was bringing them up now. So those are the letters we received ahead of time, and the board has gotten those, and has had the opportunity to read them.
And I suspect, Mr. Bush, would you like to comment directly on beyond the letter itself?
Thank you very much for all the effort that's gone into your many accomplishments. I'm not sure, Commissioner Sims or Madam Chair, to whom I should address my first question, which is, would you prefer that I make my comments when we are on the agenda item of the Trust Lands Trails, because that is the only item I'm addressing?
Public comment would be the appropriate point for that, Mr. Bush. So we'd like to hear from you now, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to comment. With the recent weather event, I hope that all of you and our fellow residents are safe and secure in their homes. If all commissioners have read my letter of public comment, then I only have 2 additional comments to make. Madam Chair, would it be permissible for me to see a show of hands of those who have had the time to read my letter to date?
It would.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll save some time this evening. I'm grateful for your attention and willingness to take my comments. I think one of the things that I want to really acknowledge is that in your role for Parks and Recreation, in the aspect of your work for recreation, I would give you, and I'm sure our community would give you all, an A++. Your efforts and accomplishments to create good, safe, accessible recreational opportunities for the citizens of Island County is remarkable, and you should be commended for it. I have a concern, however, in the second part of your mission, or the first part of your name, parks. I really feel that it's not just recreation here. And as areas are developed and as additional changes are made to existing habitat, I feel that in the Trust Lands Trails in particular, habitat and the access and use of these lands by birds and small creatures is being reduced. Additionally, I have found on numerous occasions many dogs off leash, and that's a problem for birds and small ground dwelling animals. So the only thing I would add to my comment is I really hope that you'll give very careful and serious consideration to your role as stewards of this very important, valuable, almost pristine piece of real estate. And I will reserve any further comments for after your consideration and can write at that time. Be very happy to answer any questions if any of you have any questions. Thank you very much for your consideration. I will stand by.
Sorry, John, just one question. Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting.
Yes,
I got Doug's computer disease. You were just talking about just the comment you made, you know, in your letter. I didn't see, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything about this. Your mention of the off-leash dog issue. Is that something that you've noticed at that property? And if so, is there a certain timing, or are there, you know, times of day, week, nighttime, you know, when there's nobody around? Or is it just kind of a general issue that you've noticed?
I've experienced it every time I've been on property. And Mr. Swenson, who hikes those trails daily, can probably give you a better statistic on it. It is something that occurs literally every single time I'm there. Another matter I didn't mention, Commissioner Sims, is the mountain bike activity, which frequently those bikes might be traveling 20 miles an hour with no audible warning. They are quite distressing to hikers when they're approached from behind. And I don't know how to encourage better citizenship among our fellow residents, but it's a leash mandatory property. All people really need to do is follow the rules. There should be care and consideration by equestrians, which have always been, in my experience, very considerate. They're very concerned, of course, about the safety of hikers and the horses. But for some reason, mountain biking and dog ownership don't seem to ascribe to the rules.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I would add, John, that one of my pet peeves is off-leash dogs as well. Hiker, runner, person who's out there, inevitably that dog will come up upon me. Whether it's nice, and they'll say, oh, the German Shepherd's nice, give him a pet. Well, that's not what I'm there for. I like animals. I have a dog, but I'm empathetic to what you're saying because I think it's accurate. In terms of the mountain biking, that's an interesting issue because when I look at Trustland, and I like to mountain bike, and I think Jake is also a mountain biker. He might be able to weigh on this as well, but I don't see Trustland Trails as a great mountain biking area. And as we go down the road in the future, I don't know. I don't know if that's a common occurrence. When I've been there, I haven't seen a bike yet, but you see more than I do. I just, for the most part, it throws me because I don't think it's that wanted a commodity by mountain bikers. And I might be wrong on that, but anyway, I'm empathetic to the dog issue.
Well, if I can respond, Madam Chair, to that.
Doug, how are we doing on our 5 minutes?
I haven't been keeping really close track. I was letting them talk, but we're probably getting pretty close. He probably can respond.
Okay. All right, go ahead, John.
I'll be very brief then. As regards biking, I find them prolific. There are a lot of bikes. And if you remember an original hearing on the trails approximately a year ago, several people petitioned for the access of electric bikes that could be allowed. I don't think it should be the most desirable for mountain biking, but believe me, there are plenty of them there. And I'm not asking that they be prohibited. I'm just pointing out that as the census of additional visitation increases, the ability for the habitat to serve its natural native species is reduced. And I think that's a very appropriate consideration for the commission. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else for public comment?
Just one more question, Doug. I haven't seen the other comment. Is that posted yet, or will that only be made available in the minutes?
What other public comment?
The other letters you listed. I haven't had a chance to review those.
They were up for the board to review. They are included in the board packet and they'll be attached to our minutes. I can get them to you and send them out if you'd like to see them.
That would be very much appreciated. Thank you. I realize you got a lot to do. When you can get to that, I'd love to review other comments because I'm unaware of the merit. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? This is the opportunity. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. Just make sure. Run down. Okay, all right. Jennifer, I think we can move on.
All right, we will move along to the approval of the minutes. Has everyone on the board had an opportunity to review the minutes from the November meeting? Are there any questions or clarifications?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to approve the November minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Josh, aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion passes. The minutes are approved. We will move on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And before I go into the normal slides and charts, I want to pre-brief an issue that's rapidly approaching us this month, and that's the biennial state audit of our park district finances. We had a pre-audit conference yesterday. If time flies, maybe it was the day before. I think it's yesterday, between the state auditors, Doug, Carrie, and myself. This is an audit that happens, like I said, every 2 years. The last audit we had covered through the end of 2018. So this audit will cover the full years 2019 and 2020. It will not cover this year to date. These are audits that used to happen in person. They would come in the office and sit for a couple of days. Then they went virtual during the pandemic, and now we're expecting a mix. They're very likely, very likely to be an in-person portion, but also quite a bit of it will be virtual. The total duration of the audit is 60 hours. Carrie will talk to, do you have details on the exact schedule, Carrie?
No, I'm still waiting for some details, but it's officially scheduled to begin November 29th, of Monday after Thanksgiving. There may be some preliminary work, gathering documents and such on next Monday and Tuesday.
Perfect. Okay, and it's very likely that the audit will be completed by the time we get to our meeting in December. Really, the biggest change we face is, since the last audit, is the transfer of responsibility from Peggy to Carrie. One aspect of that is it's probably going to take Carrie longer to pull together information and documents that Peggy could have found in seconds. It might take minutes, but the state auditor during the initial conference was very accommodating, and they'll meet us in the middle on that. And to me, the silver lining to this is having another set of eyes, Carrie's eyes, on the things that we do from a financial management perspective. I think Carrie will bring us great benefit in that, just her own perspective on what we do and making us better. And I think the auditors also will probably recognize that. We had this kickoff, which they schedule. They expressed a willingness to come and present like an audit kickoff to the board at a special meeting. I took the liberty of telling them that I would gladly present this information to the board myself and save a special meeting. If anybody desires that we hold a meeting for them to come and brief us between now and when they start, I'll gladly take that feedback. So just shout out before we're done here. Otherwise, this is the in brief. The auditor's name is JJ Muter. He's new. We haven't had him before. The support from the audit manager is a woman named Amanda Robinson. She's been involved in our audits in the past. So we've got some new, some historical. My own perspective on the audit is that it's a very good thing. We've had great audits in the past. They've told us we have good systems and that we have good practices, but we can always be better. There's always new lessons to learn. There are new challenges and threats that we face every day. There's a great opportunity in an audit like this to get information on best practices from other places. Just to tell you kind of what they do, they do not audit everything. So it's not their intent to come in and audit every single thing. They could not do that in a 60-hour audit. They look at certain things that are principal, like they always look at the fundamental financial foundation of the district in every audit. So we can expect that. They will also look at things that have come up in other audits, like other park districts. They'll look at audits of other people in our kind of span of relationships, like their audits of Island County. If there's something that comes up there that relates to us, they'll audit that with us. They look at other audits across the state that may have elements that are germane to us, and they'll look at those things in our audit as well. They'll cover things that they found the last time. There was a minor issue that they identified last time involving our tracking and inventory system for what are called small and attractive assets. And so they gave us some information and mentoring on how to create a system, a better system for tracking those assets. And so we implemented that. They'll come back and look at that to make sure that we did it and that it's sustained. They are less likely to look in areas where they did a deep dive the last audit. And the last audit focused heavily on payroll. And so since the payroll system was evaluated as excellent, it's unlikely that they're going to look at that. What they didn't look at last time is disbursements, our payments, our vouchers, all those kinds of things, wire transfers, wire payments. And so that's the area where it's very likely that they will do a deep dive this time. The other thing that we're asking them for help on is the general issue of cybersecurity, data integrity, and data protection. The idea, there have been incidents of fraud perpetrated by cyber warriors against municipalities and other entities like us, and the state has some significant lessons learned and best practices that you can implement from a data integrity standpoint that they're going to share with us. That they've already shared with us some information, but kind of mentor us through that. So another benefit of the audit is getting information like that. At the end of it, we'll get a final audit report, and they'll have a final audit conference. It'll be Doug, Carrie, the staff, and then nominally me and Jen. If we do more, then we'll have to, fill the structure of a public meeting. If anybody else on the board is interested in participating in that, we can swap one of me or Jen out. So just let me and Jen know between now and then. Otherwise, we'll do the audit debrief, and then Carrie and I and Doug will bring to the board in the December meeting the results of the audit. We'll have the formal written report, and we'll talk about the outbrief and any issues that were identified and any kind of process changes that they're recommending we do. So any questions on that audit cycle or any of those elements before we move on to the formal treasurer's report? Okay, anything that comes up separately, just reach out. Now we'll move on to the overall slide, which you see here. Again, remember, up is favorable in all cases, and these are cumulative numbers year to date through October. You can see the net is the blue line, and the net budget is the magenta line. As of end of October, we're running 140K favorable to budget. So you can see the revenue in that upper portion of the overall chart is relatively close, and expense has been controlled favorably to get us most of that delta. So great work by the staff, facing the constraints of the pandemic and controlling our expense profile so that we maintain adherence to our budget. The next slide shows the revenue picture. You can see that cumulative. Remember, we dropped slightly unfavorable, 6,000 unfavorable last month, cumulative. We're back in the plus side because of levy receipts. So we're 16K favorable at the end of October in revenue. So right where we should be. The next slide shows expenses, and you can see that cumulative expense control. The bulk of that expense control is the green lines, which are programming. So 124K of the 140 is expense, and the bulk of that is coming from controlling expenses and programs. So great job by Carrie previously and now Sky in executing that to keep us on the right side of that equation. The last slide shows our fund balances on plan as of the end of October. As you saw in the 5-year budget analysis in the workshop last month, and if you've looked at it since then, we will reset the reserve fund balance level at the end of the year to account for the next year's expenses. So you'll see that change will happen at the end of the year, but otherwise we should stay on plan through the end of the year. If there are any questions, I'll answer them. If not, we'll move on to the vouchers.
That last slide, the bonds,
Yeah.
wasn't there a bond missing from October?
Say that again.
I'm just looking at let's see, so small. I have to go back, but
Sorry, yeah, you can zoom in. Yeah, so the tan is the, oops, sorry. The tan is the Maxwell Trails bond, yeah.
No, so okay, gotcha. So it's the light blue, the last light blue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and no, it's a great point. So the October light blue line did not print.
Okay.
Like,
It's just a misprint.
Yeah. That's a great catch. But yeah, so we added that last month. You're right, and looks like we just, and I can pull up the file and look. So if that's not a mistake, I will answer that before the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Good point. So yeah, and that detail is correct. So that column represents the, whoops, I lost it.
Sorry.
Yeah, that column represents the,
Sorry, I'm losing it there. There we go. Oh, apparently I closed it out. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to pull it up myself here real quick, and I'll confirm that. Just give me a second. It's worth sorting this out. Let's see. Okay. Yep. Sorry, you're right. So that was just a misprint. It is, so the value of that fund balance in October is 214,794.11. So 214,794.11, up from 154,626.46 in September. So we'll make sure that that's posted with that month also present, but it's up, like I said, just north of the line at 214,000. Krista, you win the Treasurer's Report Award for 2021.
Okay.
I'll come up with an appropriate icon to document that formally. That's fantastic.
All right. So looking at the vouchers, changes from when it came out on Friday. We did have payroll on the 15th, so that is now showing in here. And with that comes some other expenses. We paid the electric bill, although we did lose power for a couple of days since then. So I'm not sure, maybe we get a refund. I'm not sure about that. We picked up some vehicle maintenance supplies at SEBO's. And then you've got some additional stuff that goes along with the payroll, the retirement, the deferred comp, the payroll tax, and that was it. So those were the changes since Friday.
Does anyone have any questions on the voucher listing? Okay, if no questions, I'll make a motion.
Hang on 1 second. Hang on 1 second. So
Go ahead.
I thought I downloaded the new voucher that was put up today, but it's not reflecting the changes that you just showed us. So was the newest one not in
It
the
might not,
OneDrive?
it might not have been on the hard drive, Jennifer. This might be the newest copy.
Okay.
I just got this afternoon, so I don't know if Carrie had a chance to upload it to that that drive.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I did not. You would have received it in your email, but no, I didn't. I did not put it on that.
Okay.
So any questions, Jennifer, about those? So you want to go quickly through those, the changed items again, Doug? Just hit them one more time.
Yeah, sure. We had November payroll tax liabilities. We had our deferred compensation. We had our retirement, vehicle maintenance supplies, electrical bill, and then our monthly payroll for the 15th. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, if no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the voucher listing for the M&O fund for $65,626.92 and the capital fund for $6,450.00.
I'll second that motion.
All right. It has been moved and seconded to approve the MNO fund for November for $65,626.92 and the capital fund for $6,450. All those in favor say aye.
Josh, aye.
Eric,
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion passes. The vouchers are approved. All right, we can move on to the staff report, please, Doug.
Okay, staff report. So this month, programs. We had outdoor pickleball, 7 out of 9 sessions canceled due to court conditions. We began indoor pickleball on November 3rd. Attendance there has been good. You can see we've got some stuff coming up. Youth basketball registration is going to open on December 1st. That's exciting. Youth basketball and indoor pickleball, we had an agreement made with SWPRD Community Center to resume pickleball immediately, and youth basketball beginning in January. Pickleball must wear masks and so show proof of vaccination and photo ID. And we will meet, Sky will meet again with the community center folks to determine safety protocols for youth basketball. Our Facebook page reach has increased by 42.3% over the last 30 days. Reach is the number of people who saw any content from the page. Goal is to continually increase reach and engagement, and Facebook's algorithms use these metrics to increase how often we appear on followers' timelines. So you can see here's the post with the most engagement and the largest reach. So we're reaching out to the community. Facilities and grounds, trails have definitely become the focus of the last few weeks with all of our wet, windy weather. I know the crew was out there with the power. Once the power went out, the wind hit us pretty bad. We had quite a few down trees and debris cleanup with the storm stacked up. We finished up the cross-country season and the soccer seasons. We currently have sports fields closed. We are potentially opening tomorrow. If we are, good enough when we get down there. It was looking a lot better this afternoon than it did this morning, but I think we're getting close to reopening. Hopefully tomorrow we can reopen for the afternoon. Proposed trails were marked and at Trustland as well as the 60-foot easement. Still waiting on the map on the easement. Matt, Josh, and staff met with representative from our user groups on the field conditions plans going forward. We had our user group meeting that was fairly well attended. It was an online meeting. I did work with Deanna Gregory from our bond levy attorney Pacifica and put together the documents for the proposed levy for next year. I also had her draft an explanatory statement for the voter guide. So one thing we will need to do after this meeting is reach out to our community to see if there's anyone who would be willing to write a for and an against statement for the levy. Once we get out of this board meeting, I will post that if there's nobody that has a suggestion on that. Deanna did say when I asked that it should not be anybody that is currently associated with the district, so not a commissioner or staff person writing the for or against, just to protect ourselves from the idea that we are advocating for it. Staff can definitely not do it. I would think that potentially if a commissioner did it as a volunteer basis, they could do it, but it would probably be best to see if maybe somebody from the foundation, that has some experience in that kind of area would be willing to do it for the for, and then just reach out to the community for somebody who might want to do the against statement. We basically have to make an effort. If we don't find somebody, the county may have somebody that they'll reach out to, but that's the opportunity there. These secured quotes from our insurance broker for the benefits we discussed coming out of our compensation and benefit study. I do have a little bit more information on that, but I haven't really had an opportunity with the storms and everything else getting prepped for this meeting to really delve into that. I believe that what we put into our projection should be more than enough to cover the costs for some of the stuff we've been talking about going down into the future with the levy going forward. On November 11th, we had an individual drive up onto the upper sports field and drive a donut in the field. This field will be out of rotation until repairs can be made. The issue with that and ongoing will be is one of those where we can't get out there with the equipment to actually affect repairs until the field can support the weight of the equipment, or we'll just do the same kind of damage that's already been done. And then we have the ongoing rain and field saturation last week. We closed the field for the weekend. We reevaluated both Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings and have continued to remain closed. I'm hopeful that we should be able to reopen tomorrow. Matt already talked about the auditor stuff, and there's some pictures of the damage that was done to the upper field there. Any questions on the staff report?
I don't have any questions on the staff report, but I do have a request for future staff reports. Is this an appropriate time to bring that up, Doug?
Definitely, go ahead.
Okay. So now that vaccinations are being given to the kiddos, I'm wondering if there is any way for Sky to glean any information from the health department to figure out where we're at with our kids, and if we can kind of correlate that into programs so that we can get a better gauge for kids who are signing up, and if that can help us fine tune our budget for income.
I think so. Don talked about helping.
I'm hearing some talking in the background. Is that, I don't know where that's coming from. Can I just remind everybody, if you were not actively on the item, please mute your microphone. Thank you. So yeah, I think we can look into that. I'll probably have to talk to MRSC about how much we can do with inquiring as to vaccination status with people and that kind of thing. So I can reach out to them and bring back some sort of information on that, because it might help us. I do also have a directors meeting coming up that we do at the end of each year for the local area park directors. I'll see if that's something that we can talk about there. That might be a good venue for that as well, to get feedback from what they're doing about going forward with now with kids being able to be vaccinated, and what are you requiring to have people come to your programs, and that kind of venue, and see what we can come up with. But we want to look at definitely the legality area on that and make sure that we're not overstepping I don't think we would be, but
Right,
I'm not sure.
right. 'Cause no, I can't. No, the statistics would certainly be collected by Island County.
Mhm.
If there was just some way to kind of bounce that as a percentage against school enrollment. I mean, it's a data point, and it might kind of help us figure out some fine tuning of program income. So, a thought.
Yeah,
Might be getting into the weeds.
We can look at it, and it might be getting into the weeds because it might not be something that we can get a very accurate count on, but we can try. So yeah, I'll reach out to them and see what we can do as well. Okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments on the staff report?
Just with the increased social media and better communication from Park and Rec, I've definitely been noticing that. So real, shout out to Sky and just and also to Carrie for the packet for this meeting. To both of you, I'm really appreciating new eyes and new energy to things, and it's really making a difference. So many thanks to both of you.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think it's clear that something's changed. And I think the community is responding well to it. I've had at least 5 or 6 people mention that they've seen us out in social media, and it's encouraged them to do stuff, to join programs, to go out in the trails, to enjoy the fall color, to play pickleball. And I think that's great. It's very, very timely, especially coming out, this phase of the pandemic. So great work.
Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business and start with the comprehensive plan programs.
Okay, so as we talked about a little bit earlier, the septic system design has been submitted to the county for initial comments. The small water system management plan is still under review. I did receive a quote for management services for the plan from King Water, and those numbers we've added into the budget. We already actually had some money already budgeted for water testing, and the water testing with these companies is cheaper, so it actually was not a significant or huge amount that we had to go up with. Aquatic facility, Matt and I met with Marnie from the foundation and Quinn Clements at Davido on the loss application with the state. That's the large on-site septic system. And we're working on the next steps with that plan. The Max Walton Trails grant, Max Walton Trails Park grant. The easement has been completed. The sign is up. We're waiting on the easement map from TMI. They are supposedly, that's on their list, and they're going to get it to me as soon as they can. Once they get that to me, I should be able to finalize the Max Walton Trails Park grant and close that out with the Land and Water Conservation Fund and WWRP local parks, and we should be able to start looking at the amounts to pay back the bond issue that was used to purchase that property, to whatever portion we have remaining of the money of that. Stimulus applications, the applications did go in. Matt did a great job getting those all put together and into the county by Monday at 5. Even though the district office lost power and we were running around like crazy, he got it done and got it in. So kudos to Matt on that. Believe I saw an email, Matt, that they're only taking 1 from each entity.
Yeah, so in the first phase, with the funding that they've released, they asked us to prioritize 1. So we'd given them the applications in rough priority order. So the first one was pickleball. So that application is the one being considered in this phase, but they also said that there will be additional money released in follow-on phases. So they have all the applications and we'll just keep them in there. And we'll just, Doug, I think just keeping a regular cadence of contact with that office and just let them know we're here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, hope is we get some kind of feedback here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if a lot of these agencies might not be really having projects that are eligible or projects that fit the criteria might not work out as well, because in talking with that their eligibility issues might let us climb up the list a little bit more with the second project, but we will see.
Yep.
That's all I had on comprehensive plan, really kind of, you know, brief and to the point there. Any questions on any of that?
All right, then we shall move on to the flagged trails and next steps.
So, like I said, we did flag the trail at Trustland. We did the proposed trail at Trustland. We did also flag kind of an entrance trail directly across the road from the entrance to the park for the Maxwellton Trails property. I did send out letters to all neighboring property owners that their property touches ours, and just kind of said, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. Here's you can go and see where we flagged it, and kind of got that notice out. We did get comments on both. Those comments have all been sent out to the board ahead of time and will be attached to our meeting minutes as a part of the record for this meeting. So we do have those. The things I wanted to kind of touch base on, the trail at Trustland, a couple of comments I had was I wanted to make sure that the board understood that we were looking at doing this trail, and the points closest to the property line are over 30 yards away, which is close to 100 feet at all times, more than the 50 feet that we talked about. So we are looking at here at 37 feet. You're looking at 110, 115 feet away from the property line. And then the other point that was close was 33.3, so really almost 99.9 99.9 feet away from the property line. So the board directive to stay 50 feet from the property line was followed with the flagging of this trail. The other thing that I wanted to kind of bring up, there's been some talk about you know in some of the comments we received about the initial plan for the trails, and I just wanted to bring that up to the board and kind of show you. And let me see if I can get this to fit the screen. There. So you can see here, this was the initial not yet developed, not yet developed, not yet developed concept that was done in 2008. Okay. Oddly enough, a lot of the layout is very similar. We did not do this portion here, but this portion from about this point here at the top of the peak of this red here, down and around over to here. But this is very similar to what we did going up this way, and then we did kind of a loop here. There is topography here, there's a ravine. We just didn't think it was wise to go in there, so we didn't do that. And you can see the challenge loop, while it doesn't follow the exact path of what we have flagged, we are looking at similar kind of line here. Portions of it may be farther away than what we had initially planned, but we went out and walked the ground and looked at avoiding going up steep hills and that kind of thing, and tried to maintain you know, following path of least resistance, so we're not taking out large amounts of trees. So the concept is actually fairly similar from 2008 to what we kind of came up with our overall map, which actually I can probably, where's Mr. Swenson's drawing, because that probably has. So this, you can see we just didn't go down into this ravine and back up, but for the most part that's fairly similar to what we did. And what we did here is we changed this, instead of bringing this trail all the way down over this steep section here into this, we kind of stayed away from that and used this intersection here that was a natural intersection as kind of our finding point and moving that up. So those were the reasonings behind why we did what we did with those trail plans and those ideas and those concepts. You know, the concept of the trail being over here, this challenge loop, was in from the beginning. It was not something that we created and pulled out of our hat. This was always a part of the overall plan of Trustland. So those were the comments I had coming out of people's comments. I just wanted to make sure we were clear on all of that. The board right now, where we are with this, I am waiting for, I was waiting for this meeting to kind of bring back to the board so that I could then go through the site plan review process with the county to make sure that we don't need any permits for this at all. And this is a ministerial decision, so it is a county staff decision. It does not require a time for public comment on it, so it would just be me filling out the forms and submitting them in if the board directs me to do this. The option we have, if we want staff to do this, this would be a trail similar to every other trail over there. It would be constructed in the same manner with the mini excavator going through and creating that trail. The other option would take a lot longer, and that would be a single track trail through there, which with the undergrowth there could potentially be grown over next spring. And that would assume that we had a volunteer group willing to go out there and construct it, which we would have to create. So those are our options. One would take longer. The other one would be quicker and easier to do once we got permit verification and completed everything we needed to do with the county. But those would be the next steps, and the board would have to direct us and vote to approve going ahead with the trail as proposed.
Doug, what's the current status of flagging? Like, is it flagged? I have not been up there since the last time we walked. Jen and I walked that upper portion. Is it currently flagged all the way through? And are the flags close enough together that you can connect them?
Yes, I could connect them, and we had them go out and reflag it with a brighter color that was not yellow. From when I first went out there, because I could see them, but I could see that they would be hard to see. So I had them reflag it in a brighter color.
When was that reflagged, Doug?
Tom, are you on? I don't remember when Austin did that.
Yeah.
It was like a week.
It's been in the last couple of weeks.
I think, Matt, we need to have a trails committee meeting and see if we can get a walkthrough from Doug or Austin or someone from Tom's team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, and maybe if you think this way, we come up with a time, we walk through it, and then we come back to the board with a recommendation from the Trails Committee on how to move forward, whether or not to move forward, and how to do it at the next meeting. Does that sound reasonable, since it's probably pretty impossible to do anything out there anyway, given the current state of the weather and the ground?
My suggestion is another month is going to put us behind the 8 ball. So time is ticking. We've got other projects going, and this is kind of the time frame of the year where we need a decision. Just my 2 cents.
All right, then I will just reiterate that Matt and I then definitely need, as the Trails Committee, need to get out there as soon as practical, taking into consideration the public comments that we've been presented with. I want to actually have my own eyes on correlation to property lines and correlation to the trail below.
Yeah, I concur with that. Is the rest of the board okay with that approach?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Is there a way to delineate where the actual property line is, Doug? And once again, I haven't been out there since last time as well.
So to that point, Eric, Matt and I both have a very good mapping app on our phones, and we can certainly share that with you. We found it to be quite accurate. And then Doug also has the GPS unit. Not that that actually helps with a visual, but the app seems to work very well. Matt, can you refresh me on what the name of that?
Yeah, we were using an app called Footpath.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm asking is it is different when it's a visual, when you're actually standing on it versus looking at topography of it. I have my own questions about, okay, how far is it actually from the property line? Can you visually see that property line? Can you look down and see people on the parallel trail that's already built? Can you hear those people? And some people will say yes, some people say no. I don't know. I'm just asking that question. Those are questions that I have about it. And I don't think I'm probably the only one, but I'm willing to go out and take a look at it. I think it's a great idea, but I'd like to have a little bit more of my own information.
Okay, so why don't we have the Trails Committee head out there with me, and then I can set up if you want to go out there with me too, Eric, or if anyone else wants to, Krista, Eric, Josh, or Jake, you want to meet me out there. Happy to do it. Let's not do it as a group of more than 2 commissioners though, because then we're having a violating public meeting law. But I'm happy to. I'll set that up in the next few days, and we can potentially see if we can do a brief kind of special meeting to address that.
Sure. Yeah, and Jen, if it's signed, I mean, if it's flagged well enough, Doug, Jen and I can work out time even, this weekend sometime if that works for you, Jen, and it's not hailing or 90-mile-an-hour winds, and we can just go through it ourselves, following the flagging if it's good.
I'll double check it, and I can I'll head out there and kind of get you oriented as to where the ends are. I mean, you can see the ends. It's heavy bushwhacking. It's pretty intense to get through that. So just a heads up, we're close that you're pretty much going to get wet going through it. So be prepared.
I'm okay with that as well. I can bushwhack with the best of them, so I can go out there and actually take a look at it. I'm asking the question ahead of time just so when I'm visually walking on there, how do I know where the actual property line is?
Right.
So you answered that question.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, this is Jake here. I'll plan on going out there sometime this week as well too. I was there about a week and a half ago, but I didn't actually walk the new proposed trail. So I'll make a point of going out there as well.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay, shall we move on to new business then?
Okay.
All right, let's.
Go ahead.
Engineer wood fiber quote approval.
So, reaching the end of the year and looking at budget levels and where we're at, Tom would like to purchase engineered wood fiber. This is the safety surface that we have in the playgrounds. It's getting tamped down. We do have to replenish it here and there. This quote is using the KCDA public purchase program, so it's already pre-bid, so the bidding requirements are met with the one quote, and staff does recommend approval. The quote in and of itself it will fit in the budget, and it is, let's zoom in. For the amount we are getting engineered wood pipe fiber, and we get a discount and freight and everything delivered in $4,969.55, and staff recommends approval so we can keep those playgrounds safe.
Just as some edification and some background, can you help us understand what KCDA public purchase is, please?
So KCDA is, I believe it's King County Directors Association. It's a public purchase entity. So what they do is they go and secure quotes for items and do the bidding process, so that if you are part of their system, which we are part of KCDA, you can use them as your bidding entity and take their pricing. They generally, as a bigger group, get a better price than what we would get for one shipment. So it helps us with that and gets us a better deal. It's a group purchase program, so that's what it is.
Thank you.
You bet.
Are there any questions, comments about that?
Whoops. We just lost it on the screen. Yeah, can you just, there. So the total is 49,69.55.
Correct.
For what it's worth, the school district orders everything through KCDA as well, or quite a bit. And I found all the prices to always be extremely competitive, meaning, you know, your money goes a long ways.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that input.
Yeah, so if there's no other input, I'll make a motion to approve the KCDA purchase for 49,69.55.
I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the KCDA public purchase for $4,669.55. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
All those, or Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes and the wood fiber quote is approved.
Okay, next.
Yeah, I was thinking, Doug, for this one, can you let me share my screen so I can just kind of poke around in the budget spreadsheet and just show a couple of the different examples?
Sure.
As a let's see. Okay, is that working? Can people see
Can now.
the spreadsheet? Okay. And if I move around, is it following clearly, or do I need to really go slowly?
Well, it's moving pretty good for me.
Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of set the stage and then just open for discussion. Remember the way this tool was constructed was to allow evaluation of a couple different levels to understand what the financial impact was of those choices. And that was what this calculation portion was for. The entering arguments and information, as Doug indicated in the initial portion of the meeting, was that based on our restructuring of this revenue and expense accounting to more correctly reflect how we actually do business, that actually showed that unbeknownst to us, we were in the hole in the last couple of years of the existing levy. That, as Doug indicated, the biggest portion of that is that we just underestimated our costs at the end of that levy period, and we set the levy too low. And, the result, but, we have the reserves. That's why we have some of those, those funds that we talked about in the fund balances portion to be able to account for that, because our, the amount that we are unfavorable to overall budget is, in the order of 58,000 in the 2022 year. The consequence is that our ending cash level is below the target that we establish in our fundamental financial principles. And that ending cash level is what goes to beginning cash in the following year to be able to fund the park for the first few months of the year before the M&O levy receipts come in. So because that ending cash number is critical. The way we plus that up is from the reserve fund. So reserve fund balance goes to raise the ending cash up to a green where it needs to be for the ensuing year. So this is sitting right now, the analysis is sitting at the extension of the existing levy rate of 20 cents per thousand. And these entry consequences don't change. The 2022 numbers don't change appreciably because the levy doesn't take effect until, even though we're taking it to the ballot in February of 2022, it doesn't take effect until January of 2023. So it doesn't matter what you select, and I'm sure you experienced this in your experimentation with this spreadsheet. Nothing you do changes the situation in 2022. We are going to be, roughly $107,000 below our target in the reserve fund in order to fund our beginning cash level for 2023. And that's, like I said, that's just a consequence of the previous levy. And there's some factor in there for the pandemic impact on park operations and financials, but the principal impact is the levy rate from the previous cycle. Then taking that as our foundation, understanding that that is the starting point, the choices that we have, or the choice we have to make impacts the forward look. And, the fundamental look forward, is the beginning cash levels. And the beginning cash levels, as you can see at that rate, are met. What is not met is the reserve fund objective. And you can see at that rate, we are short in the reserve fund in 2022, as I pointed out a minute ago. We are also still short in the reserve fund through 2023. And it takes us to get to 2024 to get the reserve fund balance to where we've established it in our fundamental principle, number one for the reserve balance. So this to me isn't just as a, versus our fundamental principles, we're not meeting our fundamental principles with that rate. The other fundamental principle we established in an update last month was this idea of this capital reserve to allow us to accommodate unforeseen events like these weather events, like other things that happen to our park infrastructure, the existing infrastructure. And this budget, we set some principles on funding that with a portion of the capital available in any given year. And you can see the impact with that 20-cent projection shows that we do not, in the term of this upcoming levy, we would not achieve that $250,000 level. That's a new fundamental principle. That's something we added last month. So again, consider it in that light. But that, in terms of impacts of changing that number, one is that reserve fund, getting it back to our fundamental principle level. The second is how quickly, or do we fully fund, or how quickly do we fund this capital reserve? And then third, this last row is the capital that's available for the projects that we have historically been unable to achieve because we've been operating the parks really to sustain the existing parks, but not to expand services. And that's that, the list of deferred maintenance items that we've talked about, the pavement overlay at the maintenance building, the new maintenance building, the fence replacements, the roof on the concession building, pavement repairs at the sports complex and in the community park, on the community park side, bathroom renovations, things like those that we have just never had the capital bandwidth to be able to achieve. Beyond that, the comprehensive plan programs that we haven't been able to achieve because of the financial bandwidth. So that's what this row gets to. So as we adjusted those levy numbers, those things change. So that you saw the 20-cent level. At the 21-cent level, you can see the impact. There's that reserve fund. Instead of it taking till 2024 to get back to the target level, we get there in 2023. So as at that 21-cent level, that's one improvement. The second improvement is you can see that in the last year in 2026, we achieved the goal funding for the capital reserve. So you can see instead of not getting there, in the 20-cent example, we get there in the last year. And you can see the amount of money in that row 59 that's for those deferred maintenance items and for those comprehensive plan programs. You can see it. We start to see that in 2023, $29,000, and then $126,000 in 2024, and 286 in 2025 and 2026. So again, we catch the reserve fund up a year earlier. We fund the capital reserve. We achieve the target funding level in the 2026 year, and we deliver this amount of capital to those deferred maintenance and comprehensive plan programs. And then in the last scenario we had analyzed for, which was the 22-cent level, you can see no change in the reserve because nothing impacts 2022. We're in good shape in 2023, just as we were at 21 cents. You can see we achieved the capital reserve fund target level. Instead of in 2026, we achieve it in 2025. So it takes us 2 full years to get there, but a year sooner than in the previous example. And then you can see roughly twice as much bandwidth for those deferred maintenance and comprehensive plan programs than in the previous example. Instead of 29,000, it's 70,000. So 126, it's 209. So you can see it just delivers us some additional bandwidth. Now, this is not a panacea. You could see that just, this set of deferred maintenance items that we've estimated so far is 356,000. So you can see even by 2025, we haven't freed up enough bandwidth at the 22-cent example to even get to those programs that we've estimated so far. And there's quite a few that we haven't estimated, plus there's the comprehensive plan. So this doesn't substitute for the heavy lifting we're going to have to do to raise grant money and find other sources of funding to achieve those projects. But it gives us a chance to start. That's what this money does, whether it's at the 21-cent level or the 22-cent level. So just wanted to walk through that. Those are really the material impacts of the choice we make here. And it's a question of, to me, do you sustain the park system as we have, to date, through the previous several levy cycles of which I've been a part, or do we take a step further in terms of that 21-cent or 22-cent level and allow us to have some bandwidth to expand services, to add services for people we don't currently serve, for areas of the South End that we don't currently serve with parks or with park programs. So to me, that's just personal opinion. That's the kind of the fundamental decision that we make in a time like this is do we keep doing a great job of maintaining the existing infrastructure, or do we allow some bandwidth to expand services and programs and park facilities to people we don't currently serve today? So that's my preamble. I open the floor to questions, comments, thoughts, perspectives.
So I just had a couple of comments on that really quickly. And Matt, you can keep it up. That's probably a good document for us to have up.
Okay.
My two comments is this 20-cent at the 2022 level is the worst case scenario, right? So that if we went for our previous levy, worst case scenario there's not a dime more of assessed value come September of 2022 for 2023. So the assessed value stays exactly the same as it is today, which is not very likely. It's going to go up something, we would assume. Our worst case scenario would be this scenario at 20 cents with this. So we would still be able to fund things going forward at 20 cents. We might not be able to do as much as with 21 or 22, but we would still be able to fund things. The other thing that I would kind of point out, and it's just a function with our budget of what we've done with moving the capital program items and the loans into the operating costs, is that has increased the requirements because it is a function of 25% of expenses. So 25% of expenses is what our beginning cash and our reserve fund are required to be at. Okay, so when we increase those expenses by bringing in those loans and those other things, that increase the amount we were required to have. Not saying that's not a good thing. I'm saying that's the reason it's happening that way. So I wanted to explain that and bring that in as like, yes, that's part of the game, the situation that we're looking at with rebuilding these funds is we've started to account for everything that we're doing. So we do need to increase those funds as a reserve fund or change the percentage we're required to keep on hand. That's another option. But based on what our fundamental principles have been, that is why that amount is increasing, is we've changed the amount of expense. So we have then therefore changed the amount we need to keep in reserve and changed the amount we need to keep as beginning cash. Fundamental principles. That's just wanted to address those two things. The 20 cent at the current rate is literally probably the worst case scenario. So even with the worst case scenario, we would still be probably okay, but like Matt said, we wouldn't have a ton of bandwidth to do extra stuff. That's my 2 cents.
I like the pun. That's your 2 cents.
I just have a quick comment. As most of you know, I've been around for a long, long time. I think that in the early days, the fiscal conservative approach that the board took was they never wanted to raise our millage rate. And, you know, up until the last few cycles, we were steady from the start until, I don't know, 8-10 years ago. And so it's kind of, it's disconcerting to every time we come up for a levy that we're asking for more money. I don't like that. I think that at some point we need to kind of live within what we have. And if we've got deferred maintenance, we handle it like we did a few years back where we run a bond. And you have a bond that, you know, you can knock out a lot of that stuff instead of keeping money in the bank to deal with stuff like that. So, again, I think going to the voters and raising this every time we go for a new M&O is kind of a scary situation we're putting ourselves in. The hospital just had a huge increase. Fire had a huge increase. The schools are going back out. So, I mean, taxpayers are being hit left and right. And, you know, I'd like to see us kind of hold steady on where we're at and make it work like we have for a lot of years. So, just one more quick question I wanted to ask. If the pool is ever approved, is that going to be a separate maintenance and operations levy run in conjunction so it doesn't jeopardize the existing park? I know in the previous attempts to run the pool, those are running conjunction. So if one didn't pass, you know, the project basically was done. And, you know, that way we're not lumping the whole park operation into an M&O that would run the pool as well.
Yeah, we've had that discussion at when we talked the bond issue with the bond people with Jim Nelson. So we've already talked a little bit about that, and I think as we get down the road and closer looking at that, we'll talk about that. But that is something that I brought up at that meeting, and we did talk about some options there, and we'll bring that back when we get to that, get ready to do that kind of process.
Yeah, that's just and from a timing standpoint, that's at least halfway through. That first time that would come up would be at least halfway through this, this 2022 levy, M&O levy measures. So it would be out of cycle with that, and it's down the road from it. So just from a timing standpoint.
Okay. Any questions, more discussion from the board on this? I think Matt kind of gave you the options. We've talked a little bit about the rate and what you can do. I've got resolutions prepared by the attorney for 20, 21, and 22 cents as was directed. We just need to kind of, as a board, we talked about a 4-year term and kind of said go with a 4-year term. So we're looking at a 4-year term, and we just need from the board to pick one of those 3 resolutions and put it on and vote it out. And so you guys need to discuss that because we need to get that done. That has to be into the county again by I believe early December. It is, this is our meeting to do that.
But before we go any further, can we pull up some of the materials that you've presented that would go out to the voters that actually breaks down what this looks like?
Sure, Matt, can you give me that control? Thank you. Yeah, let me pull that up. So,
can we get some exact dollars for people?
So I didn't do every scenario. I just kind of, but it's pretty. You can kind of see it on one sheet where I did one.
I think the questions would be about if we did have an increase.
Right.
How much would that be for a household?
And that's
the easiest way I looked at it is on a $500,000 home, you're talking about a $5 increase or a $10 increase. So correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that's a simple way to look at it. If you don't mind, I have my thoughts on this because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I had a discussion with Matt the other day, and he filled me in on some things, and I just I keep coming back to a couple things. The state of our economy right now on South Whidbey, and I hear Tom, and I understand that people are reluctant for increases, but I also think that we have to move forward. And when I look at it, my three biggest things that I kept coming back to was reserves for starters, and Matt's talked about that a couple times. And I just think moving down the road, thinking ahead, I mean, we're already seeing climate change and the cost that something simple impacts organizations. And I don't think Park and Rec is immune to that. I think having reserves is a very wise move. I might not say that if we weren't in the place we are now on the south end of Whidbey Island with assessed values. And I don't think it's a time where, and this is my own opinion, again, I think it's a time where people looking at $5 increase or a $10 increase in their taxes, yes, it's one more tax, but I think selling that in the right way is critical. So those fundamental principles that Matt talked about with reserves, that's a big part of it for me. Showing some kind of growth and giving the public something that's saying, hey, we completed the mission on this. I would hate for us to have all these great ideas, whether it be pickleball courts, pools, whatever on our list of capital projects, and not complete them and not get anything moving. And I know we're moving on the campground. I heard Krista loud and clear, where are we at on it? Can we make this move a little faster? I think there's community members that are saying the same thing. Well, why isn't this stuff, why isn't it done? Why does it take so long? And I get the bureaucratic part of it, Doug. I'm not placing blame for a minute. But I think moving forward with that increase is essential. I just think it's essential if we're going to do anything. And then lastly, I keep coming back to the time we're in. Just the increase I'll go back to that $500,000 home. $500,000 home, if we went to the 22 cents, and if that means $10 more in taxes, if we position that right and sell that in the right way and say, hey, here's where your money's going. And we have the items there with a nice pictorials that show where their money's going. I think the community will buy into it. That's my own opinion. I know people would argue against that as well. People say, oh, we're taxed too much. We've always been taxed too much. Things have always been expensive on South Whidbey. Ever since I moved here and they said, oh, it's so expensive on South Whidbey. Well, it's still expensive. I don't think that's going to change. The one thing that looks good right now is a lot of people have jobs. A lot of people are working, and it's not I don't think we're in a depressed state. So that's my 2 cents. I'm in favor of going for 22 cents on the 1,000. So hope that helps.
Right.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate your comments.
And Krista, you had asked, Krista just asked about this document that Doug had pulled up. So you want to just go back to that real quick? And Krista, what did you think of this?
Yeah, so this is based on the 21 cent. I could do the same thing for the 22 cent if that's what the board decides. I kind of think, my 2 cents, I don't know that I'd go 22, but that's a board decision, not a staff decision. I would say the max I would go would be 21 because it's really sellable. Like at a $500,000 home, you're talking about an increase of $5 a year, not a month, a year. So that's a very small increase. And if we look at this and go, the assessed value right now gets us that much money, that assessed value is also going to climb next year for the fall. So when we go into 2023, we'll have an increased assessed value plus an additional cent. I think that's probably sufficient, but that's, again, I'm the executive director, I'm the staff person. I kind of see what you're saying and what you're talking about, but keep in mind that that's not all the increase you're going to get. So this kind of breaks it out and shows you this is the total. So on a $500,000 home, you'd pay $105 a year in taxes to the park district. That's it. That's all. So $5 more, not really a huge deal, but and I kind of appreciate what Tom said about always going back and always asking for more. But by the same token, when I looked at the hospital and their increase last month, I was stunned when they said they haven't gone for an increase in 57 years. And I was talking to staff at the hospital and trying to get them to explain to me, well, why haven't you kept up with what you needed to operate? Like, to me, that's just, I think there's a balance point and we have to kind of watch that, but we need to do what we need to do and we need to fund that. So I get the going up slightly. I never want us to be in the position where we have to go to the voters and say we need a 43 cent increase in our levy, which is basically what the hospital did. So
can you scroll to the first page of this, Doug, real quick? Because I saw that go by. I didn't really see it.
Yeah, and this is a draft. This is not anything. We as a district can only put out information. There can be nothing in here that says vote this way, do this. It's not persuasive. It is factual only. So we talk about the ballot, when it's going to be on. It's a 4-year. It's a replacement, and I think this is what we need to talk about. It's a replacement levy. Our current levy does expire. We're not asking you to give us 21 more cents. We're asking you to give us 21 cents again, and that's a distinction that we need to make. The voter fact sheet contains information, and that's really all that's on the front page. We may have to lay things out a little differently because if we want to add anything into this. I know Matt had asked for a map, and I had that on one page, but on one of the versions of this, but not both of them. And that's what's at on the first page. The second page has the ballot language, the proposition, what would be on the ballot, and there, and then how just an explanation of how your park district works. This has been scrubbed a little bit, but not completely. Probably have to go back and redo that and just make sure that everything in here is still correct. But I just wanted to give an example because, and then we would look at doing either 3 online or 3 in person, depending upon where we are, in January, open house kind of information sessions that talked about the levy and answered questions. So that's kind of what's in that document. Matt had asked for a map that showed.
This is the format we used the last time, is that correct?
Basically, this is the format we used the last time, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and the only reason I'd asked for the map was just, we talk in the words about what the park district, what comprises the park district, it's, or what the park district is comprised of. A lot of people just think of community park, but the range of park properties that we are responsible for is much bigger than that. And I think just a visual reminder that we're touching the lakes, we're touching the trails, we're based in community park, but we've got, facilities that serve people in other areas of the South End. So that was my only intent with that comment.
Some of the changes that I would like to see on the flyer, going back to that backside where it says, what does the levy mean to me? Having the 3 columns it's too much data. If we just keep it at the 2 columns, the assessed value and what the total levy is. So at 21 cents or 22 cents on page 2, there you go. The current levy is expiring. So it's no longer relevant. So what we need to communicate is, what is the levy that we want to put forward? Is it 21 cents or 22 cents? And what is it going to cost the taxpayer? Showing an increase over the expiring levy does not bring any value to the proposition. So 2 major things that we want to try and accomplish with this new levy is real pickleball courts for how many, but there's almost 200 people now, or over 160 for sure, that are involved in the pickleball. So we're going to give them a real court. We're replacing a huge hole in our South Whidbey community with a campground since we lost the South Whidbey State Park campground. I think if we focus on the good stewardship and the benefits that we are bringing to the community, that's where our focus needs to be. To the point that Matt made, and I think Doug said, the past couple of comp plans, we've just carried things along. It's time to move forward and to have some growth and bring in community members that we've not been touching.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like your comments on the voter information card. I think simplifying that is to our benefit. I think if people don't read it because there's too many numbers on it, it's too complicated, I think that doesn't help us. I think we want people to read it. We want people to understand it, and figure out what, and to the point of the math earlier, I think the question is, what do we think the value of that difference? So it isn't, if we go beyond 20 cents, it is an increase for sure, right? And the increase is to that 500,000 taxpayer, and we use that as a round number. It's $5 for 21 cents, and it's $10 for 22 cents per year. So do we think the benefit of that, I mean, that's certainly a cost to a taxpayer. Does the benefit of this idea of achieving some of these, or taking steps to achieve some of these things, do we think it's worth that $5 to that taxpayer? And my personal opinion is that it is, that's a relatively low cost for the benefit that we can provide in maintaining the parks at the extremely high level we have maintained them over these past few cycles, and in reaching out to some of those new, those other potential users of the parks who are not reaching today for whatever reason, because we don't have the breadth of programs, because we don't have parks in all the right places. So yeah, my personal opinion is that in this case, that $5 between 21 and 22 cents is more than worth the benefit that will be gained by that taxpayer and by everybody, who comprises our district population. So my personal feeling.
Just to echo some of the comments, I would like to see this material redone so that it is clearer, so that it is possible for somebody to not read it but still understand it just by looking at the graph. I would like it to call out if there is some sort of an increase, what will be done by that increase? So mentioning some of the things that we are trying to get done. I think now is the right time to go for an increase. The last 2 years have been difficult on everybody. However, I think that the residents of South Whidbey are really grateful that they've gone through a pandemic here on South Whidbey. And having access to the community park and to Trustland Trails, and to be able to do pop-up Zumba in the park and outdoor pickleball has helped to keep people healthy and sane during this time. I think if there ever is an appreciation for what the Parks and Recreation does for this community, it's now. And people, the hospital bond and other, it's about livability and having access to beautifully maintained parks and having a wealth of programs is part of that livability. And it is our responsibility to move things forward and expand services and facilities for others in the community.
Is there a particular rate that you were considering, Krista?
I am absolutely comfortable with 21. I know 22 it sounds high, but I think especially looking at, again, that 500,000, $10 more a year, I think that's worth it.
I'd come back to the slideshow or the slides that I believe you put it together, Matt, that you showed us on all our capital projects. That kind of selling point to what Krista was just talking about, when you can actually say visually, hey, we want to put in pickleball courts. These are our projects that we want to go through, and things that we've done. I think that's essential. But I'm still going to push the going forward, because, and I wouldn't say this if we were at a different time. There's been times in our economy where I would say, no, let's not do it. But as Krista said as well, I think it's a prime time right now. I think people want to get out. I think people want to do things. They're looking to the future. I hope they're looking into healthy type of alternatives, and it would be the time for us to sell our programs.
What do you think, Josh? Maybe we lost Josh.
He's still there, but I'm not sure.
He's in that mythical go-to-meeting ether.
Right.
This is Carrie speaking. Just one consideration as however we decide to fund projects, for instance, a pickleball court or collection of pickleball courts. And there should also be consideration for budgeting for increased program staffing. Just a thought that, you know, as we expand our maintenance as well, of course, there will be more maintenance for things such as that. But I just want to, you know, put a plug in for the fact that expanding our program opportunities does mean that we'll have to increase staffing, which is already a little stretched, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say for sure, I mean, you guys, I think, did an excellent job, Doug, with this full staff and building this 5-year budget projection. No matter what we do going forward, this next, you know, to me, the critical window will be next year in August, September timeframe when we're looking at the 5-year projection from 2023 to 2027 or 2022 to 2027. Reflecting whatever levy rate that we have applied here and reflecting the assessed value changes, because we'll need to update those out years from a program, you know, based on what capital projects we choose to fund from those deferred maintenance items and the comprehensive plan programs, and what we think we can achieve with what money spent where, and then wash that impact through all of the whole park budget. Because there'll be a programs impact up and down, there may be an admin impact up and down, maintenance impact. So that'll, to me, that next cycle when we're sitting down in August and September of this coming year with the knowledge of what we have done from a levy standpoint, then all those calculations come into play. And I think you guys, like I said, you do a great job of it annually as a staff, and this will just be reflecting all those changes. Do the same scrub so we can look at a clean 5-year projection going forward from next fall for this. You know, we're sitting at the same meeting a year from now. We've reflected all that through the 5-year look forward budget and the 2023 budget that we'll be going forward to approve at that point.
Since we're talking about timeline, just when's the next time that we look at the comprehensive plan?
That's 2023. The current comp plan goes 2018 to 2023. So we need to have it submitted. Doug will correct me, but I think we need to have it submitted by sometime either very early 2023 or the middle of 2023 to cover 2024 to 2030.
I think we have to have it done and in before 2024. I'd have to double check that, but that's mostly for the grant applications, and we just have to have a current comprehensive plan on file. But yes, that would be 2023 is the year we would be kind of reviewing and revising and updating. That process would happen in 2023.
Yep. So good timing, because that same sort of analysis, looking at level of service determination, and then looking at what projects we can achieve, and then putting in information in there about how we're going to achieve them with funding, with this funding, with grant funding, with other supplemental funding. So that'll be a great chance, especially for the new board, to dive into those projects in great detail, so that we can be as successful as possible in that next cycle.
Okay, it appears that we've lost Josh. So how about I ask for the last comment and then we can move to a motion. So any last comment? All right, so Doug, help me here. I think I know how I need to proceed here based upon the conversation, and I think the motion that I am looking for is a motion for 22 cents. Is that correct?
Well, that would be up to the person making the motion. But they could make a motion for whichever amount they feel is correct. But yes, we need a motion to approve resolution number 2021-02 in the amount for the millage rate of 22 cents or 21 cents or whatever amount, and then we can go from there. But that's what we're looking at. Yes.
Okay, so then we could look at actually voting 3 times until we.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-02 at the millage rate of 22 cents per thousand for the years 2023 through 2026.
I'll second that motion.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2021-02 at the millage rate of 22 cents per thousand for the tax years 2023 through 2026. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion passes. The resolution passes.
Yes, resolution is passed. So that the rest of the items for levy are things that are more administrative in nature. That's the one thing we needed to do tonight. The information sheet and the only other thing I would ask tonight is if anyone has suggestions as to who to reach out to for a yes or a no statement for the voter guide. We're looking for people to write those. So if you have suggestions, get those to me and I can reach out to them. Pacifica did recommend that it not be a board member for the park district or a staff member. It can't be a staff member. But they would write the persuasive argument for the guide.
What about some of the people who have recently written comments, like on trails and things like that?
We can reach out to them. I was thinking foundation people might be good, but we can also post it on Facebook that we're looking for it, and people could, who have commented would be probably willing to do that. But yeah, I can look at that. The people that have commented.
And we still also need to approve the 2022 budget formally. We haven't done that yet.
That's a different agenda item, Matt. But yes, we do.
Okay.
We're not done. We've still got that on the agenda. I was just more speaking on the replacement maintenance and operations levy right now.
Got it.
The other item in there, the information sheet, is something that I'll sit down together and maybe what we should do. So maybe what we should do is appoint a couple of commissioners to work with me on that.
I was gonna nominate Krista and Jen, since you guys had such fantastic inputs. I was mesmerized, Krista, so I trust you completely and implicitly. If you don't mind me volunteering you.
It's fine.
All right, Krista and Jennifer, are you on board with that?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I will reach out to you and we'll start we'll just edit and take that document and put it through the ringer and make sure that then when we're done with it, we run it by Pacifica and make sure we haven't said anything we shouldn't say.
Now, can you clarify that is the intent that we would mail that? to,
I think that we would post that electronically. We would post that in the parks. I don't have an intent in mailing that out. I am trying to get the information out there. I think that I don't know that we could, that's something we'll have to check with our attorneys and see how much we could do if we could spend money to send that out to people. I don't know. We have to be very careful. We have to be very careful about spending money to
sure. Yeah, I would just want to make sure we get it to as many people as possible, like Island
Right.
Senior Resources in their newsletter and, things like that, to get to people who might not have as much access to social or exposure to
Right.
social media channels, maybe.
The other aspect, the other channel we can look at is those open house kind of meetings, and then also reaching out to community organizations to do presentations. Potentially if a voter forum, if the League of Women Voters does something before that election day, we can have representation there to kind of speak to, this is what it's for, this is what we're going to do, and this is, the amount, and so on and so forth. Okay.
That sounds good. Okay. Yeah, because I was just going back to in the last cycle, there were a couple of those initiatives where we got a card in the mail, right? Like a hard kind of double-sided brochure in the mail. And I don't know what other people think if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or, so anyway, just food for thought for you guys, Jen and Krista.
And if anyone knows anyone who would be up for writing letters to the editor. So anyone in your sphere would be willing to do that.
Sure.
So the only other thing that I had from the attorneys was the explanatory statement, which was this here. And it is just a straight up explanatory statement that what it's supposed to do, the revenue of tax, on and on and on, and what it does. So that's the attorney writes that for us, and that gets included as the explanatory statement. The people we would reach out to write the pro and the con, those would also appear in the voter guide as well. So just letting you know that that's already in process and has been written, and that will just be substituted with the 22 cents. All right, so the final thing that we have, budget approval. So at this point, we have the budget narrative. We've gone through the budget workshop, and we just did the budget hearing. So we have done all of the appropriate items to get through the budget for next year, for 2022. Matt's talked through the budget. This is the resolution. Resolution 2021-03. This will need to be adopted as that resolution for the budget. Ordinance resolution number 2021-03. And then we will also have to have signed the levy certification, which is signed, I believe, by the treasurer, and then but that is coming, and then we have the budget narrative, which will have to be signed by everybody. These will have to be hard signatures that we will need in the office. So I will have the maintenance and operations levy in the office tomorrow. If everybody could get there by the end of the week, that would be ideal. And if you can't get there, let me know, and we will try and find a place that I can meet you and we can go through it. But staff recommends approval of resolution 2021-03.
Can you pull that up, Doug?
Yep.
Yeah, Doug, I don't know if you saw the emails earlier, but there was a typo in the resolution, right?
Okay.
Where it says 21 tax year.
Okay.
That should be 22.
22. Okay. So we'll update that. So that will be updated.
Okay. Can I assume that since we had the pre-meeting on the budget, that there are no further questions on the budget approval?
Can we get clarity on the levy certification? Because the hard copy has me signing it, but Doug, you thought that Matt signs it. So can we get clarity on Who needs to sign the levy certification?
I will confirm who has to sign that with the county assessor or the auditor, whichever one it's supposed to be, and I will confirm that before you come out to sign. So I'll call them tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
It will be,
I'll probably be able to.
Yeah, it will be either Jennifer or Matt.
Okay, and I'll probably be there to sign like Friday morning, first thing. So, so if there are no other questions, I'll table a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 budget ordinance resolution number 2021-03. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District has met and considered its budget for the calendar year 2022, and whereas the district's actual levy amount from the previous year was $959,921.51, and whereas the population of the district is more than 10,000, and now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the taxing district that an increase in the regular property tax levy is hereby authorized for the levy to be collected in the 2022 tax year.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more below that. It's not letting me do anything right now, so I can't.
Yeah,
that should be most of it. And I don't know that we need to read that into the record anyways. But
yeah, that was just precautionary.
Okay. So we have that would be the motion, ordinance resolution number 2021-03.
I'll second that motion.
Has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance resolution number 2021-03.
Just a note, since you're having troubles viewing the rest of the resolution, below that is parts that refer to collecting refunds.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion passes.
The resolution passes.
Sorry, the resolution passes. Thank you, Doug. Oofta.
That's all I have.
Anything for the good of the order?
I'm sorry. This is Carrie again. It's not the amount that refers to the refunds. It refers to the increase of a 1%, and the dollar figure for that. So I want to make sure that you guys are approving that part as well.
They are approving the resolution, and they will sign the resolution. There's no need for them to read the entire resolution into the record.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then we will adjourn this meeting at 8:21.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Excellent
Thanks,
discussion. Thank you for your participation. It's greatly appreciated.
Okay, thanks for your leadership, Jen. Take care, everybody.
All right.
This conference is no longer being recorded.